It should have been McLaren's proudest night, Singapore 2025. Under the floodlights, they sealed the Constructors Championship with 6 races to spare. But instead of celebration, the team left Marina Bay in silence. The moment the 2 Papaya cars touched on lap 1, you could almost hear something snap. Not carbon fiber, but trust. If you love F1 without the noise, hit subscribe and let's get into it. The replay tells the story. Norris dives down the inside of turn 1, Piastri holds his line, and sparks fly. Literally. Within seconds, Oscar's radio cuts through the chaos. That wasn't very team-like, but sure. From there, McLaren's calm facade began to fracture. Inside the garage, mechanics watched the monitors in stunned silence, while Andrea Stella's face froze behind his headset. Even Zak Brown's trademark grin vanished. To the outside world, it looked like a simple racing clash. But behind the pit wall, this was the collision everyone feared. The moment when McLaren's perfect partnership turned into a power struggle. It all started within 10 seconds of the lights going out. Piastri, launching from the front row, was chasing Verstappen into turn 1 when Norris was lunging from behind. The contact was light, a scrape of papaya paint, but the message was heavy. In that split second, the harmony McLaren had preached all year shattered. Over team radio, race engineer Tom Stollard's tone stayed neutral. "We're looking at it. Let me get back to you." He never did. The FIA ruled it a racing incident, and McLaren followed their lead. But for Piastri, silence was louder than any penalty. It wasn't about damage, it was about principle. Zak Brown called it hard but fair racing. Andrea Stella backed him up, saying both drivers understood the limits. Yet every replay told a different story. Norris had pushed his teammate offline, risking both cars when the constructors' title was already in the bag. For fans, it felt less like racing freedom and more like selective blindness. McLaren hadn't just failed to act, they'd chosen not to. And in that choice, Oscar Piastri's trust began to erode. One lap, one radio call at a time. When the checkered flag fell, the barrage should have exploded in celebration. McLaren had just clinched the constructors' title, a dream moment years in the making. But amid the cheers and champagne, one half of the garage stood still. Oscar Piastri climbed out of his car, helmet on, eyes forward. No fist bumps, no smiles, just silence. Zak Brown's voice came over the radio. "Oscar, back-to-back champions, mate." The line went dead. He'd cut the feed mid-sentence. For a driver as calm and respectful as Piastri, it wasn't anger, it was rejection. Footage that never made the broadcast revealed the divide. North laughing with mechanics on one side of the garage, while Oscar stood apart, still in his overalls, head down. Even Andrea Stella's attempt to bridge the moment, a quiet pat on the shoulder, felt hollow. Inside the paddock, whispers spread quickly. Had McLaren just crowned a champion and lost another? That night, under the neon lights of Marina Bay, one thing became clear. Oscar's silence wasn't emptiness. It was a statement. The calm before something much bigger. When the cameras cut away from the podium, the real analysis began. In data rooms, timing sheets, and whispers between engineers. McLaren's pace in Singapore was flawless, but the pit wall decisions told another story. During the first pit window, Piastri was held for nearly 5 seconds, just enough for Norris to stay ahead once both rejoined. Officially, it was a rear left delay. Unofficially, it was fuel on a fire already burning. For the second weekend in a row, Oscar had lost track position to his teammate through strategy, not speed. Andrea Stella defended the call, saying, "We optimized for the team first." But fans weren't convinced. Across social media, a single phrase echoed, "Papaya rules," for one driver only. Every detail began to feed the narrative. The newer front wing on Norris's car, the pit sequence, the tone of radio comms. Inside the team, Brown and Stella knew perception could be as damaging as fact. Yet their silence let the idea grow that McLaren's golden boy wasn't the one leading the points, but the one on every billboard. In F1, trust is measured in tenths of a second. And for Piastri, those tenths had become a weapon turned against him. By Monday morning, the debate had already exploded beyond McLaren's walls. Paddock insiders called it papaya politics, while fans across forums and timelines chose sides. Some defended Norris as a hard racer in Verstappen's mold. Others saw a pattern, one that echoed the treatment Mark Webber once faced at Red Bull. Fast, respected, but never truly the favorite. Sky F1's panel split down the middle. Jenson Button called it a racing incident, pure and simple, but admitted if I were Oscar, I'd be furious. Martin Brundle went further, noting how the team's reaction didn't match their own fairness rhetoric. Even BBC's Andrew Benson wrote that McLaren's unity looked more like a marketing campaign than a management policy. Zak Brown doubled down, insisting there was no bias, only competition. Yet every quote, every replay, every side-by-side camera angle said otherwise. The story wasn't about who was faster, it was about who the team wanted to be faster. For Piastri, silence became strategy. No tweets, no interviews, just a quiet, calculated distance. And that restraint, that refusal to play the PR game, only made the world listen louder. By the time McLaren's trucks rolled out of Singapore, the atmosphere inside the team had changed. The jokes, the music, the energy that had defined their rise, gone. Mechanics spoke in whispers. Engineers avoided eye contact. One side of the garage celebrated Lando's podium, the other packed up in silence around Piastri's car. Andrea Stella, ever the diplomat, tried to frame it as competitive tension. But even he couldn't hide the fatigue. Behind closed doors, team briefings grew colder. Oscar's debriefing notes went unanswered. Lando's requests were processed first. Small details, yes, but in F1, perception is politics. Zak Brown, meanwhile, faced the hardest balancing act of his career. The Constructors' title was secured, but he knew the Drivers' Championship and McLaren's credibility hung by a thread. Backing Norris too openly would confirm every suspicion. Backing Piastri would risk alienating the team's British core. Some mechanics quietly muttered the phrase once used to Hamilton and Rosberg at Red Bull: same car, different rules. And in that environment, silence became dangerous. Inside McLaren, nobody said the word division. They didn't have to. You could feel it in the air, like static before a lightning strike. 6 races remain, and McLaren's biggest enemy isn't Red Bull or Ferrari, it's themselves. The Constructors' title is already locked, but the Drivers' Championship hanging by a thread. Piastri's once commanding lead has shrunk to just 22 points, with Verstappen closing fast, and Norris suddenly unleashed. Every lap now carries political weight. If Piastri attacks, he's racing selfishly. If he yields, he's a team player. Either way, the narrative traps him. And McLaren's leadership seems paralyzed, afraid to correct Norris, afraid to lose Piastri, and terrified of admitting that the balance of power has shifted. The irony is brutal. McLaren built the fastest car on the grid, but their internal storm might hand the title to another team. In every team meeting, you can feel the tension. Data screens flicking, glances exchanged, a silence that speaks louder than strategy. As the championship moves to Suzuka, even rival team principals are watching closely. Christian Horner reportedly joked, they've got 2 drivers and 1 leash. But beneath the humors lies truth. McLaren's control is slipping. And once a team loses trust, no amount of downforce can bring it back. Singapore was meant to prove McLaren's dominance. Instead, it exposed their fault lines. In the days after the race, both drivers returned to Woking for simulator work, but never at the same time. Norris relaxed and smiling for media content, Piastri sharp, quiet, refusing to fake unity. Even his engineer noticed the difference. Short answers, no small talk, just focus. Zak Brown tried to downplay it, telling Sky Sports, both guys are mature, they've moved on. But insiders said otherwise. A closed-door meeting lasted nearly 3 hours, and when the door opened, nobody smiled. Andrea Stella's expression said everything. The peace is temporary. The trust is gone. In the paddock, rumors swirl. Ferrari watching, Red Bull listening. Everyone knows McLaren's balance is fragile, and Suzuka will decide if this becomes a rivalry or a collapse.